Hello, I'm with Darren from Digitl, based over in Manchester today, and I've come in to ask him some questions about his business. He's the sixth guy I've met so far. I've not spoken to my 10 yet, I'm on my way there, so hopefully today we'll learn something that nobody else has told me, and yeah, see how it goes.
There we go.
Awesome. Could you start right back at the beginning and tell us what you do and who you are and what you're all about as a company?
Yeah, so if you start right back at the beginning, which is it'll be now 15 years or so ago, I was a web developer and I'd been through quite a few jobs for big companies, been made redundant, and I got to the point where I was working at places, getting frustrated with the way the companies were run, felt I knew better, and then the redundancies came, and when I found myself heading for my sixth redundancy in 7 years, I'm like, I just need to do something else. So I decided to work for myself, and the only thing I could do was web development. So I pretty much started freelancing, and I got an agency as a customer fairly quickly who gave me lots of work, and things went well. To the point where I started to write a desk in Manchester with that agency, got some more work because I was in Manchester, and I found myself working 40, 50, 60 hours a week. And at that point I decided to take on my first employee, and it was someone I'd known for years, went relatively well, and that's how my agency started to grow.
And what do you do today?
So what Digitl does now is we're an e-commerce consultancy. So if people need help with strategy or growth with online sales, so e-commerce, marketplaces and digital marketing, we can help with that. But we also have the technical skills to build the websites and do the integrations with software as well.
Okay, cool. That's quite cool. Obviously, I've already spoken to you about the lineup between what I do as a job and what you do. I think it's absolutely awesome, which is why I thought it was so beneficial to sit down and speak to you about how you started and how you got going. So, like you said there, you were working for someone else, and I mean, what was the path between you working for somebody else to you deciding, I've had enough, I can do this myself? Like, how did that thought process go?
First moment it happened was in 2013, and I got a meeting with my boss, and we got down to London, and we were talking about the way the company was run. It's weird how you can remember these things so vividly when you think. And I said to him, I think that at some point you should consider giving me making me a director or giving some ownership of the company. And he was laughed at me, and he said, you don't know what you're on about. And that was pretty much the end of that discussion. But it was just one of those things where what I found is that getting made redundant made me think, well, maybe I need to get some work on the side and save a bit of money away. And I got my first client, which is a business in Rochdale called Rent Truck, and I did a small website for them, and that was my first sole job. I'd done some free stuff in my own time and things before that, but that was my first proper client. Yeah. And that must be around 2005, something like that, 2006. And then Rick, who's still a client now, 12 years on, introduced me to a guy called Ian, who has a company up in Oldham called Team Spirit. And he said he wants a website as well, and then did a good job for them. And then Ian referred me to his mate Ian, who's also a customer. And that's how what was then Red Star started, which was my agency for 8 years. And it was just, I think, apart from the other agency client I had that gave us lots of work, it was just that word of mouth network, which still today works for us. And like I say, it's 10, 11 years since that started, and it's still been quite productive for us.
So you organically grew through Referral. I mean, is that your path to progress?
Pretty much everything that we do, and the thing that, and this is the same with other business owners that I know, is that if someone refers a client to us, we're pretty fairly sure that we're going to get on well with them, because people tend to refer other people like themselves. Where we always find that relationships with customers can be more challenging is when they just come off the website, and you don't know them, and they don't know you, and they don't know how you work. And that's where we always, so we have a policy at Digitl of, we look at a client and we decide whether they're going to fit in with the way we want to work. Is it the right type of person, the right type of business? And if I've got a sort of like a worry or a concern, we just sit down as a team and we decide whether we work with that client. And in the 2 years that Digital's been running, we've said no to 3, maybe 4 people.
Yeah. And
that's the best thing for us, because we want to come to work every day and not dread the phone ringing because of who it is.
But also, you've got to align yourself with them as well, with their needs. If it's not the right customer for you, it's just not right, is it?
Well, that's it.
It's not one size fits all. You would think nowadays that people assume marketing is one size. I can't get over how everyone thinks marketing is just marketing. Well, in my sense, anyway. In your sense, it's web design, just web design.
There's a lot of effort that goes into doing things right and being successful, and that you can do general marketing or general web development or general e-commerce, but if you want to be really successful, you need to drill down and have some expertise around what you're doing.
So I guess if I go back to where you got your first customer, so you were doing work for free. I mean, how did you know what you were doing was right? Do you remember? So, like, when you started out, how do you know what you didn't know, or how did you learn what you didn't know?
So my first lesson, the best lessons are always the worst. I started off doing a fan website for Oldham Athletic. I'm an Oldham Athletic fan. And I got a letter one day with the start of legal action against me. And it was about, I'd used their crest on the website, and I'd made a comment that wasn't slander or libel, but it wasn't far off it because I'd not done sources. So the first lesson I had is actually you've got to put some consideration in before you start publishing this stuff. And it was successful because my site had built up more traction than theirs, and that. So my first true lesson was it was a failure. But through talking to Alan Hardy, who was then the chief executive, who I'd now call a friend, he started the conversation, well, why don't you just do our website? And I'm like, oh, right, okay. Never even thought of it as a business or an opportunity. I just thought, well, it's what I want to do for my job, so that's what I'll do. And that worked really well. So I said, will I get paid? And he went, no. Can I have a season ticket? No. That's the way the Oldham Athletic is. But it gave me good experience in terms of having a direct client, because at this point I was only in my second year at university, so pretty naive to that sort of stuff. But it was good grounding in terms of, even though it wasn't called that, I was being taken a brief, I was working out what their brand guidelines were and things like that. So it was a good grounding in a project, and it was a labour of love, because it was quite an intensive job, because it wasn't, there's that many people at the club who were involved in the site. But yeah, so that was my first proper grounding in a commercial web project, even though it wasn't paid.
It's interesting as well. I guess at that point, back then, I'm not saying the web was just being developed, it wasn't that old, but I mean, people cared a lot more about what was being put online, in terms of, like you said, they came at you with a cease and desist or whatever, or a threat of legal action, nowadays it's got to be surely less common. It has to be.
Yeah, well, this was full-on IP infringement, and I guess that it was scaring me off, and it worked. I was absolutely terrified. But yeah, I think that the difference being is that you're quite right that then the internet was its very, very infancy. That there wasn't that many websites. It was still dial-up modems, and you just couldn't achieve a great deal. If you said to people, well, you could stream a football match live online, they wouldn't even know where to be. It was unthinkable. And there was no real e-commerce then either, because payment technologies weren't there.
I don't remember.
So it was, it was fairly basic stuff. But then when you look to now, where there is people understand, most people understand what a brand is, even sort of like, if you said to one of my kids, what's a brand, they'll give you an idea. So I think, people are a bit more aware of that, and because brands are quite valuable things now. Yeah. So I think, most people get that.
So you went from Oldham Athletic. Who was your first paid customer? Do you remember?
First paid customer? Do you know what? It was a lady called Julie who did sort of beauty.
Impressive, remember?
Yeah, and she was a friend of a friend, and she just wanted a basic website to send people to show her the quality of when she was doing people's nails and makeup. And it was that. And again, so you think about Harsh Lessons, it's like, to build this website, so it was only a couple of £100 or something like that. And I said, you need some images for the website? And she went, right, okay. I said, and then there was only really Getty Images to get the images from. Yeah. So she said, got all these images, said, you do need to pay for them. And she didn't pay for them. And then she phoned me up one day quite upset because she'd got a bill for about 17 grand. It's like, oh dear. So that didn't go too well. But again, it was one of the things where it's just becoming aware of the law. And if you said to someone now, go and do that, no one would even consider it. But it's what everybody did. Yeah. The last agency I worked for got stung for a ridiculous amount of money because they'd done it. So it's, things like that were not so much commonplace. So that was a small job, but I guess my first commercial job where it was actually, this is a decent amount of money, was for a company called Sparta Sportswear, who were the kit manufacturers at Oldham Athletic. So it was just that connection, and still now, that was quite a nice little website. I did a good job of that, but yeah. So there was a very small one, and then a bigger one sort of came about. But then being at university, it sort of took a bit of a backseat until a bit later on when I started getting frustrated about losing my job all the time.
See, I'm the thing I'm struggling with right now is I'm thinking that I can see how you were growing through the stages, from not being paid, which I did, to being paid very little, which I am. I'm thinking, how did you scale? For me, in terms of my time, there's none of it. As in, I'm constantly busy, and because I'm so busy, I can't even look at other opportunities. At what point did you start, or even how the hell did you afford to bring someone in? Because when you're not getting paid much.
So, I remember when I did my first site for Rick at Rentruck, he said, how much do you want paid? I'm like, I don't know. And I'm like, £15 an hour. And he went, is that good? I went, I think so. Right, I'll pay £15 an hour. And at the time I went on a seminar in Manchester, and it was a guy called David Parrish who was leading it, and he's a consultant into creative industries. And he said, and this advice was one of the things that I should have listened to, and I don't now, and it works for anybody. He said, work out exactly what it is you want to do, and only ever do that. Don't start, so he said, for example, you're a web designer. Don't start doing leaflets and business cards and brochures and anything else. Just stick to the bit of web design you want to do. And I didn't. I started doing leaflets and brochures, and his point is, well, while you're doing all those other things, you can't concentrate on what you're doing. And if you don't concentrate on what you're doing, you don't know the value of your worth either. And you have to work that out. And that's why now we just do e-commerce. And we've got a few things that complement it, but that's our sole focus. So with us, what we learned quickly is that because we started off too cheap, even at that point, is that and this is no disrespect to any of our customers, that means that word of mouth network is also low cost, because Darren is really cheap, he's really good, and that starts to fulfill that. And then that's a very difficult thing to reverse. So we just got to the point where it took years and years and years to increase our prices, because what we realised after maybe 3-4 years in, there was 4 of us at Red Star, and we were essentially just 4 freelancers sat in a room. We weren't making enough money to call it a proper agency. That's the thing that, looking back, that we could see. So it's just, you setting your prices, so it's working out your worth, and then just looking at the industry, it's pretty well documented now what agencies charge and average rates. So
and for me, it's difficult. I mean, I want to work with I want to work with small to medium, not startups, not necessarily small businesses, the ones that are scaling. Maybe they've just received investment, maybe they've just started making money. You know, the turnover's just gone through. They've had to start bringing in people, and I want to help the businesses that are basically on the upturn, partner with them. But unfortunately, for me it is anyway, but I want to charge a low cost where they can afford it, whereas they couldn't afford to go to a big agency for support. Partner with them and say, look, you scale, we scale. You know, you grow, we grow. And that maybe 9 out of 10 won't grow, but the 1 in 10 superstars, well, we've got a great partnership, and that'll make my business. That's my thought, but it's the struggle between, I know I should charge more to be able to bring in people. You know.
So for you, would working on revenue share work for you?
Essentially, yeah. But I mean, that's how it would be, wouldn't it? Every 6 months we'd revise and go, right, well, we've achieved these targets. We're going to up the price of this. You're making this much more money now.
Yeah, if you've got low overheads, that's the thing you can do. You know, and we get asked a lot. You know, you're selling online. If you're good at selling online, why don't you just do it for free, and then I'll give you a percentage of your sales. And you've got to be careful with that, because it's that. But what I've sort of 9 times out of 10 sort of think that, well, if you've not got confidence enough to invest some money in making this work, then why should I invest my time, which costs, because these offices cost money, why should I invest my money instead to make it work for you? So it's you've got to find the right customers to work in that way. And there are some good ones, and we've done similar things in the past. But I know an accountant who his basic model is, I know the type of businesses I want to work with that have got the scale of growth. I don't want paid. I want a percentage of the company. And that's the way that he works. But
it's something I'm still toying with. It's just the problem I've got is that you see, the point where you are growing. Everyone I picked up so far is organic completely. They found me. I've not even marketed. 9 times out of 10, I've not even told them what I did. I just said I do marketing. And I'm looking at doing this. And then they found me again in future, which is great. Don't get me wrong, but it's like I can't keep focusing on meeting people and stuff because I'm too bogged down in doing the do. And it's well, I can't afford to bring someone in to do this work because I'm not charging enough money. So I guess there's going to be a standoff between me and me, where it's going to be charge more and then focus on this. But I guess that's the same for everybody. It's got to be.
I think if you're clear on what you do and you think about the processes that you take people through, which is really difficult because sometimes you just do stuff. It's just you just know it's not. You don't have a process. You just do whatever it is you do to help people. But if you start to do that, then if you compare what we're like now to what it was like 10 years ago, well, there's a big gig economy. So if you needed some help, there are things like, in this building, there's a thing called Twine, which will help you source really good freelancers. There's people per hour on Fiverr, which is variable on the levels of quality you'll get. But if you can find stuff that you can reliably hand over, then that's where you will get support. It's like we do a lot of work with a guy down in Cardiff, or near Cardiff, that does some of our support where and when we need it. And it's great because we don't need him full time, but we've got that resource if and when. So that's a good way that you can scale up. But again, it's just finding the right people. And what a lot of consultants always say is, well, they won't be exactly the same as me. They'll be different. And it's just realising that different doesn't have to mean it's worse. It's just different.
How did you end up with 4 freelancers / mini agency in an office? How did you meet him?
So Andy used to work in the same team as me at the agency. So it was dead easy, you know. Interviewed him, he'd just lost his job because the agency he worked for closed down. I built our own content management system based on the one that we used to work on. It was like, well, it's a no-brainer. He started on his first day. He didn't need any guidance. It was great. He came in next. That would have been Giles, but that was when we had to advertise for that. And that is one of the scariest things that I've ever done, because you interview people, and I've been for quite a lot of interviews, and you sort of know that they say the right things, and so I'm like, well, can I trust these people? Because that's nice of me. I'm from Oldham. So, and then when he started, it's like, you need a lot of help because you don't know what to do. So so that was quite stressful. So we recruited him, and then The third person we got was a friend of Andy's, so that was pretty easy because it was like, well, James is okay and fit in. But that doesn't happen so much anymore because of the way that in the development market, there's not enough developers. So Ivo, who was the last person who came to the team, moved over from Portugal, which again was daunting because I interviewed him on FaceTime. Yeah. And other than a couple of emails and a couple of phone calls, he moved to England and turned up, and then it's like, what if he's no good? Yeah. Checked it, but it's so it's.
I guess it's scary, isn't it? Do you think that you think that having other people around to bounce ideas off or to lean on was beneficial in your growth phase?
Yeah, the one good thing I had is I had no support at all in terms of because I wasn't aware, I didn't really network, and I wasn't connected to the business community. But we started working with eBay, which was really good because we go on these calls and it was just things like they said your hourly rate isn't enough, and at this point it was 4 of us £30 an hour, and really that even back then it should have been £60 an hour, and they said we're going to introduce you to national retailers, but you're going to have to change your hourly rate. We're happy to pay you £30 an hour, but you're better than that. And if we send you into Argos and you tell them that's what you charge, they'll not consider you because you're too cheap. Yeah. I'm like, right. They said, what should I charge? Like £120 an hour. Well, I can't charge that. I've not got it in me. And I actually negotiated down my hourly rate.
You're on hourly rate, brilliant.
With eBay to £65 an hour. Which again, when you look back, why on earth did you do that? They're telling you what to charge. They're telling you that these retailers will.
Yeah, but it's a big jump, isn't it? From
30 quid. Yeah, bearing in mind a couple of years before it was only like 15 quid an hour. So that was the first ever true support I got for the company and me, and it was good because it helped. And what I find now is I share an office with one of my oldest friends who runs an agency. We both work for ourselves for about the same amount of time, and that's the great thing I've got is I can just look up and say, am I being an idiot? Have you been? And it's really good to have.
You've still got that person to lean on and tap for knowledge.
But because we're together every day, it's also we know a lot about each other's companies now because we're in them, and we do work pretty much like one company. So that's pretty good.
Do you think that it's a good idea for, obviously I said that, leaning on people? Do you think it's a good idea to seek out places where I'm going to be in an office with other people? Do you think that's great in terms of tapping them for knowledge? It sounds like a no-brainer, but it might be a distraction.
Yeah, I think it's well worth it. There's that many co-working spaces now in Manchester, and they're even up at like Oldham's got one, and up where you're from, I'm sure there'll be something there. But the good thing being is that a lot of these places, there's one on Deansgate called Rise, and I've not been for a while, but I like going working there because it's quite a nosy place. People will come up to you and ask you what you're doing, and it's like, firstly, you're like, well, mind your own business, but then it's like, well, hang on a minute, well, why do you want to know? Yeah. Like, just wondering. And there's a lot of support out there, and if it's from people who are at the same stage as you, then you've got some mutual support. Yeah. But it's the people that have been there before and who've done it who will be able to just give you random advice that you don't even know you need yet, that I think it's worth doing.
It's what I found to be the most beneficial for the videos, or just for myself, going out and meeting people. It's nuggets of information that they don't even think twice about. Chatting to someone, and I said about a problem where I was like, I can't seem to find times to charge more. Don't see how that works. That's what it comes down to, charge more.
Yeah.
It's insane, but it becomes second nature to you after you've done it for so long, and it's hard to recognize that I'm on the opposite side. I'm like, I'm just gonna have to learn this and learn the hard way.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It's things like, so at the end of the day, you're selling your time. That's what you've got. So I don't know if you use a tool for tracking your time.
No, but I've been told to do this.
Yeah, so you can pick things like Team Week, which is free, and then you can just put your stuff in chunks. Or there's things like Harvest, which is pretty good, which will do a bit more reporting, so you can put it with your invoicing. But that way, when someone says to you, well, can you get this done? And I want it done by next week. Yeah. You can look at your thing and you can say, well, I could do, but I want to do whatever on Saturday. So yeah, I'll do it, but it'll cost you an extra however much. And if people really want it, then they'll pay for it, and if not, they'll have to wait.
I already screwed myself over recently. So I offered to do something. I got hired to do something. I took my hourly rate. Awesome. I said, my own fault. I said, oh, you shouldn't take more than 10 hours. Right?
Yep.
Did not clarify just how many products that needed added to this marketplace. Right?
Yeah.
So, and then variations of said products. So what I thought would be a small job, I completely misread, and it's like 10 times more work. So what I thought would take me a few weeks, evenings and weekends, is taking me nearly 2 months, evenings and weekends, for the money that, and at the same time I brought someone in to do something for me while I was doing this. I actually ended up losing money on what I thought was a no-brainer, and I've learned a really hard way. But because I said, it's not going to cost more than that,
then you've got your contract set.
It's not going to cost more than that, but it is. But it's not.
And the thing is that that's fine, and that's a good thing to happen as long as you do one thing that will reduce the chance of that happening again. Yeah. And then at least you've paid for the lesson, but you've learnt it. And it even happens now. We try and be as tight as we can with contracts.
Yeah.
I've been writing them for 10 years, but you still get the odd thing where it's I didn't ask you the question. I'm talking to a customer that to give me that information back to stop that from happening.
That's it. And that it was just simple, kind of like it's so stupid that I never said how many products.
Yeah.
I just, for some reason, I just assumed 20, 10, 20. Yeah. Did not think twice about the fact that there was 3 different sizes of every product, and there's 50 different types of products, which is actually 150 different listings, which on a platform like Amazon is brilliant. You can do multiple listings at once. However, it's buggy, so there are issues where you can only add images individually, or you can only add keywords individually, or any personalization has to be done manually. And it's like, wow, this is a big job. Yeah. And oh God, do I regret it?
Yeah, and that's it. It's one of the things is and I've been there, is when someone snaps your hand off immediately. That's the danger side. And this is why we sort of, like when I'm talking to Chris, it's sort of that things where when you try to price a job, because sometimes you don't know how long something's going to take. Building an e-commerce website, you've got to start off with a price to let people know where you sit, but it's a bit of guesswork. So it's one of the things where I always think that you want the customer to sort of, and I've been given this advice from someone else, just not who, to sort of like not say yes straight away, need to really think it over and then say yes, and then that's where you start to get that feeling that you're getting your prices right.
I got told as well to never agree to, in the contract, say until it's done, because in the customer's eyes, it might never be done. Might never be right.
Yeah.
Just you do it. You specify exactly what you're trying to achieve. I don't know if you've ever been caught out like that before.
Well, in my first year, we lost $9,000
based on that.
And based on that, imagine I'm working from home, from a bedroom, and I've lost $9,000. That's a lot of money.
Yeah,
it was significant, and that was all. Yeah, and you will pay the balance when your website goes live. Worst thing ever, because all they have to do is decide never to put it live, and then you're absolutely snookered with it. So we've tried different things. We've tried doing pay us a deposit up front, a mid-stage payment, and then when your site is live, and then you still have the same problem. So the way that we work now is if the project is over a particular value, and he's going to take 3 months to do ish, we'll do 3 monthly payments.
Yeah.
And from a business point of view, that's good for us, because we're going to take, so if it's a short project, it does take us longer to get paid, but we've got the cash flow for that quarter coming in then. And and this is why our accountants like it, is what it means is we have a project that we started 14 months ago, which still isn't live, but we were paid last December, so it's been paid for a year.
This the positive cash flow thing that really stands out to me, is that again a no-brainer, because you get it up front and then you can bring in the resources if needed. For me, for you might be different, but you can afford to pay people, and then nobody's out of pocket, and it's done.
Yeah, and it's again just things like we have had problems in the past where you say, customers say, well, what's your payment terms? And that's one thing we just don't budge on, our payment terms or our payment terms. So if you don't want to pay a deposit, that's fine, but we can't work together, because again, from past experience, I remember I had a customer that said to me, he said, Darren, if I went for a meal in a restaurant and they asked me to pay half my bill up front, I wouldn't pay them.
Yeah, it's true.
And I'm like,
but why?
I see your point. And I'm like, fair enough. He went, so I'm not paying you a deposit. And that one I think was about $7,500 that we had to write off because it got that much of a mess that we couldn't even go down a small claims court route for it because
there's probably no point to doing that either because the time caused and the time lost doing that, pursuing something, and the faff and the mess around, and there's time that's wasted in. Sometimes it might just be worth writing it off and just going, learned a lesson the hard way.
But if you've got decent terms of business, or not even decent terms of business, clear terms of business, they don't even have to be long, that really set out how you want to be paid, how you're going to work with your client and what they need to do if there's a problem, and you have a clear quote that's accepted, and you've got that process right, then it doesn't have to happen.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things where disputes happen. We're fortunate that we ask all our customers to review us. We've only ever been rated 5 stars on Google, which is great. But that doesn't mean that with every client it's always been perfect.
Yeah.
There are disagreements, there are misunderstandings, and as long as you again picking the right sorts of customers, you can work through those and you can overcome problems.
What do you think the biggest challenge is for you, like looking ahead? What do you think is going to be the biggest hurdle over the next 12 months? Actually no, before you answer that, I was going to ask you how you keep on top of e-commerce. How the hell do you keep learning and know what's coming next?
Yeah, it's difficult.
Because that was what I was thinking in terms of hurdles.
Yeah, there's part of it that it's easy because I buy most of my stuff online, so I'm using it, which is part of it. I'm not someone who spends time every day reading websites to look at things, but it is just making sure that every now and again we're looking at certain places. So for us, it's things like Tame Bay is a good resource for what's going on. It's getting to networking events and shows, but the biggest learning curve I've had is that we put regular events on.
Right.
So we do them in Manchester, we do them in Leeds, down in London, and with them we get 3 e-commerce experts or service providers or sellers who've had a particular success story, and we get them to come and share the stories. And that's the biggest source of learning, because you can talk to people who've been fantastically successful with something, and then that develops your skills. So we started to do that in partnership with an organisation that we've done now for about 18 months.
Yeah.
And that's great because you're just hearing from people who are shaping things. And we do a conference every year now, which is a day-long event where that's there. And fortunately, we're in an industry where people like to share.
Yeah.
So that's the best thing, I think.
It's great to get everyone together, because if you're getting everyone together as well, then you're the instigator, you're the thought leader, so it builds reputation as well. I mean, I always find it, like you said it, you hit the nail on the head. We're in an industry where everybody likes to share, and it's content is king, as they say.
But it's always those things where, and it comes up in the office where people say, well, how do we deal with this? And I'll just reply, you just do that. Like, well, how do you know that? I'm like, I'm not really sure where I've heard it, but I know that I've heard it somewhere, and it's just the bits that sink in that just help build up your awareness of stuff.
So you already know what I'm going to ask, but I was going to say, so where do you see, the next 12 months, where you see being hurdles, issues, anything coming ahead that you're aware of?
I think the main thing in Manchester now is there are too many agencies and not enough customers. It's very, very crowded.
Yeah.
So we'll carry on specialising, and I think we'll narrow down even more what we do to help us stand out more. So that'll be the main thing is making sure we can get the right types of customers for us. And then it's recruitment. Like any agency that needs developers, there's a big uphill struggle there now because there's not enough of them. So we have a new recruit starting in January, all being well, through a thing called the Juice Academy, who's going to be an apprentice that's going to come and support us with some of our social media to market us in a very focused way. But then it'll be finding the next developer, and that's difficult. And what we've found is apprentices are the right route for us. So you find the right person with the right attitude, and then help them develop the skills. So it'll be just finding the right person.
It's a win-win, isn't it? It's a win for them in terms of they'll learn a hell of a lot more than they can learn in. It is education, but in a classroom, you learn a lot more on the job.
Yeah, well that's it, and everything that I've done is self-taught. I think I've done one formal training course on web development, and it was the most boring thing I've ever done, because we're in a, now we've got Google, and it's the biggest learning resource that we've got for that. So
that's how I got through my assignments. Google.
Yeah, that's it.
Copy paste.
Yeah.
And then most of my assignments were like on Friends, when Joey writes that letter. He uses a thesaurus. He changes every other word. That's what I did.
The problem is now you've got tools that will check for that.
Yeah, so exactly. Fighting back.
Yeah.
I think I've asked pretty much all the questions I had. I mean, I always ask towards the end if there are 3 pieces of advice that you could give yourself, going back, way back.
Yeah.
Not that long ago, but back to when you were younger, that would benefit you, or that you wish you'd known back then. So like, if we go through 3 pieces, 3 pieces of advice that you'd give yourself.
Yeah. So I guess my first one is, my first business plan was 1 sentence, and it was to remain solvent.
Okay.
It wasn't enough. That was like, it was a good idea, but it wasn't enough. And it's like now I've spent the past 4 weeks writing what I've called a manifesto. This is my documented growth for the business, and I've never done something in that much detail before, but that will give me my clear plan for what I want to really know what I want this business to achieve. So that's that, and that brings me on to the first book I'm going to give you, which is The E-Myth by either Michael Gerber or Michael Gerber.
I think you're selling it.
Which is, do you know what, I've bought that many copies and given this one away. So this is a story about a woman who has a cake shop, and she wants to grow it, and it fails. And it's a story of how he helps her document a business, document her processes. And that's the first book I wish that I would have read, because it's just got every mistake that this describes I made more than once. So there you go. So you can have that one, which is that. And then I guess the other thing is networking. I was really lucky that when Red Star came to a disastrous end, as I fell out with my investors and the way that happened. And the one thing I did is I phoned up one person who I knew through networking, and he gave me a list of names of people to call, and I phoned them all, and they instantly helped me. And what should have been a really stressful situation within a week led to me having this business and me being far more happy. And the thing for that is a lesson in this one, which is The Go-Giver. And this is just a story about, it's a series, I think there's 5 or 6 stories in it of just, one of the examples in it is the phone rings, you pick the phone up and it's like, can you help me? I want, I don't know, I want a PrestaShop site. And I go, no, I can't, sorry, bye, put the phone down. And the example in this is you go, well, actually, speak to Bob because he'll get you a PrestaShop site. And then it's a bit cheesy, it's American, it's all, and then because he did that, so the universe result. But
I believe in I believe in that.
Do you know what? You read it and you do it, and then you sort of notice the good things happen, and it makes you want to do it more. But there's the example that when I phoned up those people immediately after, and they helped me, that was great. So that's why I do that back. But in return, one of those people became a client, and it's just, you know, that goes on. So that's another one that's good, and then that comes back to the last one, which is networking.
It sounds so silly, but I believe in that sort of stuff. In terms of every time in my life I put myself out there, it's come back tenfold. Every time I've done something good, just for, you know, an example would be starting, I'm going to go out, I'm going to fix some businesses for free, I'm going to learn. In that process of me doing that, I picked up X, you know, a business, a friend, a networking opportunity, and knowledge. You know, it just comes back, and then I attribute it to marketing, and I say the same thing in marketing. You know, give. I know Gary Vee says like give. It's a jab, right hook, but it is true. You give, and then you can ask. But realistically, you don't have to, because at that point, people are already invested in you, your idea, your business, whatever it is.
That's it.
And it's got to the point where I'm very much all about listening to that. I mean, there's no smoke without fire, and there's so many seminars out there and so many people talking about it. I really do believe in.
Yeah, I think it works, and like I say, and from that with the people that I've now got a network of friends and that's the thing, is just going out and meeting people, because you know, I think the one thing that it's not in either of those books, but it's don't view networking as business. It's just going helping people, because at some point they will help you, and that's true, and that's why I don't go to a lot of networking events, and a lot of them I see the same people all at the same time, but that's fine, because that's my business support network in lots of different ways. So yeah.
Did you get 3? Was it 3?
Pardon?
Was that 3? I lost track.
Networking is technically one, isn't it? So networking, having plans. Yeah. And I can't remember what my first point was. A proper business plan. So I don't know. So you might have somewhere between 2 and 3.
No, I think, and it's important that I ask these questions for people, is because, you know, a lot of the time it's like people go, if I just known that, or damn that, and you must be able to see other people going through or seeing them deal with issues that have hit you. You go, I know what to do. Like you said before, I know how to deal with that. Yeah. And it's through experience that you learn. And I'm trying to mitigate my failures in certain areas, or what happens to me, through me trying to learn through other people's experiences. Yeah, so but that's it. But with every failure, there's a lesson, and you can build from it smarter. And that's why, you know, also with that, we were talking before about mentoring, is that there are so many people out there who are willing to give up lots of their time to help develop you. And it's like with me, I'm terrible with cash flow planning, or was, and I met a guy called Philip, and he said, "What's your problem?" Can't do cash flow planning. You know, my business model used to be don't be insolvent, and I said I just don't like doing it. And after 6 hours of work over 6 weeks, I got to the point where I tweeted my mentor Andy Hall, and I said to him, Sunday afternoon, I've just done my cash flow planning for a month in 20 minutes. I'm like, I can just do it, and that's free help. You know, that's not paid for. I've not had to you know, pay for it. So that's good, and that you know, not being afraid to ask for help is there's my third point. Just don't be afraid to ask for help. You know, it's because there's lots of that out there. I think I'm going to continue. I mean, well, I'm your entrepreneur, founder, business owner, whatever you'd like to use, but you're number 6. The target was 10. However, I'm really enjoying it. Like, I really am. It sounds sad, but you know, you can fit it in. It's not, I thought it'd be a massive issue to try and meet these people. It's not, you know, reaching out to people and they're just like yourself, more than happy to go, why the hell not? And then go and meeting them. Manchester's just down the road, so I don't know if I'm going to carry on past 10, but when I get to 10, I guess I'll decide. But in the meantime, I'm just having a blast meeting people. Yeah, I think that's it. Manchester's full of very, very friendly people, so yeah. Well, last point, I suppose, if someone is a web developer and they want a job, or if someone is living in Portugal and they want to get into the UK through, I'm joking, that was if Brexit might be not a good selling factor. No, but if someone wants to get in touch with you for whatever reason, how can they get a hold of you? Twitter is @WebDarren, WBDARREN, or my email, if people want to email me, they can do, which is Darren@Digitl, and there's no I in digital.agency. But yeah, if anyone's got any questions, I'm always happy to help out. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for speaking. Not a problem. Thank you very much. Cheers.